Hey everyone, so the GT500 is sold and very soon it will be leaving for its new home. But before it does, I want to give my final thoughts on the GT500 after owning this car for 3 years. Owning, maintaining, driving this car. I want to talk about whether or not I think the GT500 may or may not be right for someone that is potentially looking to purchase this car based on the facts and attributes about the S550 GT500. Now before I get into the good aspects of this car, I want to talk about some of the things that you're going to have to either live with or contend with if you want to own this car. And some things are considered a negative or a downside to some people, depending on what you may be looking for out of this car. The first and foremost, the most controversial aspect of this car is the automatic transmission. This car was only available with a 7-speed dual-clutch automatic transmission. There was no traditional manual transmission option for this car. And because of that, a lot of people have a lot of bias and automatically would not even consider this car because of the transmission. Now, I don't like the term automatic transmission because that's very vague. And there are many different types of automatic transmissions, and they all feel different and are designed to do different things. The most common automatic transmission is a torque converter automatic. It uses a torque converter and planetary gears. That is a good general purpose transmission. You see it in pickup trucks, SUVs, cars. It's used all around. That's probably the most common that most people have driven. Good transmission. They're not the fastest for shifts. Sometimes they tend to be a little bit clunky depending on the application, but they're okay. You also have CVT automatics, like my Toyota Corolla, often seen in economy cars. They're not good for performance, they're not good for high power applications. They have a steel belt that drives the transmission, and you also have AMTs, automated manual transmissions. That was the original paddle shift transmission. You started seeing in the late 90s, early 2000s, high performance cars, Ferraris, Lamborghinis, things like that. It was a dry single plate clutch. Essentially, they put a hydraulic actuator on a manual transmission with a hydraulic pump and sort of made it work as a paddle shift automatic, semi-automatic transmission. So, not the best. They were kind of clunky at low speed. Higher RPMs, they were usually a little bit smoother, but it was like something first generation. There was a lot of bugs needed to get worked out of that system. This is a dual clutch automatic. This is very different from all those other transmissions, and it drives very differently from other automatic transmissions. You have two clutches, two wet clutches, so they won't eat clutches the way AMTs, the original paddle shifter transmissions, do that have dry clutches. And you have two input shafts. One covers the even number gears, one covers the odd number gears. And essentially, they kind of tag team each other and split the work of doing the shifting, and that's what makes these cars shift so fast. You only find DCTs in very high performance applications. Modern Ferraris and Lamborghinis, Porsche has their PDK, dual clutch. These transmissions shift so fast, it is imperceptible how fast they're shifting. You don't feel a power interruption in these cars when they upshift because the shift happens so much faster than any other type of transmission. And when you start off from a stop in a DCT, it almost feels like a manual because these are built like manuals, but they're designed to be automatic from the ground up. So when you take off, you feel a little bit of slip in the clutches, and then as they grab, the car starts to really take off. It's a fairly aggressive transmission. There are different drive modes where you can change, and it'll change the pressure inside the transmission. The downshifts are pretty firm, but at full throttle, the upshifts are so fast. The only way you know the transmission changed gears, you hear the pitch of the engine change. It is so fast, and this is the kind of thing that I tell people, don't knock it till you tried it, because people have a mental perception of old automatic transmission, and you get in this thing and you're like, oh my God, this is so much different from anything I've ever driven before. Some people will try this car and say, you know what, it's still not for me. I want a more engaging driving experience. You can put this transmission in a manual mode and use the paddles to shift in this transmission. It is very, very responsive. It's not like some cars that have automatics that have paddles and they're kind of listen to what you tell them to do. This is very, very, very responsive. It does exactly what you tell it to do unless you're going to cause a problem. But it's a very, very sharp transmission. And like I said, it's the kind of thing most people, once they try it, they're like, wow, this is very, very different. A lot of owners, after coming out of manuals, will like this transmission. It is very different from a traditional 3-pedal manual, but it is still a very engaging transmission, especially in manual mode. It's different, but it's the kind of thing you have to try it before you criticize what a dual clutch transmission really is. Also, same thing I talked about in my 350, build quality. My opinion, very subpar 21st century automotive manufacturing. paint imperfections, large panel gaps, buzzes and rattles on the interior, various imperfections, things don't line up. It's just how all the S550s are built. If it was the cheapest EcoBoost and most expensive GT500, all the S550s, the build quality is a little subpar. And if you're very particular and you really pay attention to detail, you're gonna notice that, and you really might not like that on this car. It's just how it is. It is not an indication of a problem or the car's been apart or it's been in an accident. These aren't put together like very expensive cars are, and that's kind of what helps to keep these cars relatively inexpensive for the high performance that these cars are. So if you're really picky about build quality and things like that, you're not gonna like this car because you're gonna start to notice things really aren't perfect on these cars. They're just how they are. Also, this car is still kind of what I call normal looking. The GT500 is much more aggressive. They did much more aggressive styling on this than they did on the regular Mustang GTs, the Mach 1s, the 350s. The front face is more aggressive. The venting on the hood, the wing, depending on what setup you have on your car. It does stick out a little bit more, but at the end of the day, most people just see a Mustang. Since you're built on the S550 platform, most people just simply see a Mustang. You're not going to get the exotic car experience out of this car that you would, but you might think you're going to get out of it. So just know that going in. It's going to kind of blend in with the crowd. When you park next to other Mustangs, most people just see a Mustang, unless they're really an enthusiast of this car. So, and then some of the smaller things. The fuel economy is terrible on this car. Now, I know most people will not buy this for the fuel economy. Most people, this is their second or third car. They use it on the weekends, kind of putt around this thing, maybe track events, things like that. But you're not, most people aren't racking up the miles on these cars. But there are some people that drive this thing on a very regular basis, or there are even some people that daily drive these things. The fuel economy is terrible. If you drive with a light foot, you're probably going to get like mid-teens, maybe. And if you drive this car the way it's intended, you're probably going to dip down into maybe even single digits on this car. And couple that to the very small fuel tank that all the S550s has. It's really an undersized tank for what this car should have been, 16 gallons. You're talking maybe a 250-mile range if you drive with a light foot. If you drive the car aggressively, you can easily get 150-mile range in this car, so just know that. This car is very fuel hungry. You're going to be stopping a lot for fuel if you drive the car a lot. Most people don't, but just know that going in. It eats a lot of fuel, this car, as you would expect with the enormous supercharger on this car. And finally, carbon fiber aspects. Now, if you have a base car, this doesn't really apply to you, but if you have a carbon fiber track pack or a carbon fiber handling package car, the carbon fiber pieces are expensive. Primarily the wheels and the wing on this car. Some people will take them off, store them away, put alloys on it, but I think the whole point of the carbon fiber track pack is to have the carbon fiber wheels. They're expensive. Can you damage them? Yes. Are they as fragile as people make them out to be? I don't think so. But obviously damage and theft are a big concern with these. You have to be extra mindful about hitting potholes, imperfections in the road, parking next to curbs, things like that. You need to be very mindful about the carbon fiber stuff. It's expensive. You're talking $5,000, $6,000 a wheel. The wing, Ford has listed for like $20,000, which is ridiculous. It should be like a $2,000 wing, but whatever. That's what they have it listed for. Just be very, very mindful of the carbon fiber bits, especially because they're exposed. If you get damage on them, it's very noticeable. So you have to have that extra mindset of the expense of the carbon fiber bits and taking extra care to protect them as best you can. So that's kind of the downsides of owning this car that some people feel are negative about this car. Now, the aspects, the fantastic parts about the S550 GT500. First and foremost, the power of this car, 760 horsepower. The power just feels like it absolutely never ends in this car, especially having an enormous supercharger. You have a huge torque curve on this thing. The thing makes like 500 pounds of torque, even at very low engine speed. So this get up and go in this car is just unbelievable. This is a 10-second car from the factory stock without modifying it. The performance of this car is absolutely incredible when it comes to the power. You don't need to dive into the RPMs to get the car moving. You comfortably have solid passing speed at 2,000, 2,500 RPMs. Mid-range RPMs, this thing starts to move. If you put this pedal to the floor in this thing and really put it to the full RPM range, this thing just runs away from 99% of cars on the road. 5, 6, even other 700 horsepower cars, it just runs away from these cars. This thing has run away from 600 horsepower AMGs like nothing. The power just never ends. It doesn't get to the top of the RPM range and start to kind of run out of steam. It just keeps going. Ford did a fantastic job in the engineering and building the power into this car. The power is absolutely addicting in this car, how much power it has. And I don't consider this car a supercar, but All the aspects of this car give it supercar levels of performance and supercar features on this car. This is not a driver's car the way the GT350 is. The GT350 is designed to be a little bit of a lighter weight car, a more engaging experience with the manual transmission. Ford really had their sights on turning the Mustang into a supercar that was affordable for this car. You have a monstrous 760 horsepower from the engine. You have a lightning fast shifting dual clutch automatic transmission. You have brakes that are virtually unfadable. These are the largest steel brakes ever put on a production car. You have electronically adjustable suspension in this car. You have very sharp and responsive steering. The engineers did a fantastic job making this car what it is with the platform that they had to work with. Now, having the big power, you do sacrifice a tiny little bit of handling and steering with this car, but it was amazing what the engineers were able to do with what they had to work with, because this car is 4,100 pounds. Usually when cars get over that 4,000 pound mark, the handling really starts to deteriorate really quickly. And Ford engineers really put a lot of effort into making sure that this car wasn't just a straight line monster. It could really handle, it was designed to be a serious track car. It was designed to hang with cars 2 to 3 times its price. And I think that they absolutely achieved that for a $100,000 car. It's not like a Hellcat. It's not just designed to go in a straight line. You turn the wheel in this car and it absolutely responds lightning sharp, very close to what a GT350 will be. This is not like the older S197 GT500s that were designed to go in a straight line. The handling is absolutely incredible with what they were able to do with this chassis on a 4,000 plus pound car. Like I said, it's not a supercar, but it will hang with supercars and it will have a lot of the characteristics that you would expect from a supercar in a Mustang platform. Also, the reliability of this car. Early on, there were some engine issues with this car, but that was not a design flaw from the car. It was a manufacturing defect from Ford. They had the secondary cam tensioners weren't being tightened when the engines were being built. That was a manufacturing flaw from Ford on the assembly floor, not the car's fault. This car has proven to be very, very bulletproof. Reliable, 700 plus horsepower in a 10-second car that you can drive every day, and the car has proven to be bulletproof. There's no issues with this car. I did a video discussing all the recalls of this car, and for the most part, they were relatively minor. The only big one was that secondary cam tensioner recall. Some smaller issues, mostly issues involving programming, reflashes. There were some issues with the transmission, with the lines leaking for the transmission. That can be fixed, not really a big deal, but engine, transmission, drivetrain, the car is bulletproof, and it's been proven for that. People are doing major modifications on these cars, big power increases, and the car is really holding up very well to those. So you have a car with big power. You know, 10 years ago, most people never thought you'd be able to reliably make a 700 horsepower car with a warranty, and here we are. So the car's proven to be very reliable. It doesn't have the hesitation because the engine that the 3 GT350s do. This is a very bulletproof car that can handle the abuse of a 700 horsepower car and a handle being driven very, very aggressively. So hats off to Ford for making a very reliable, very high horsepower car. And also the value of this car. I just talked about how the aspects of this car are really on par with supercars. You can pick up a GT500 for a nice one in today's market at the end of 2025, a nice base car, sub 10,000 miles, no stories, well optioned, $80,000, $85,000. You're talking supercar level performance in a car you can get for a nice car for $80,000. If you want to go to carbon fiber track pack more, you get into like $100,000, but you're getting supercar levels of performance for well under $100,000. Then this car is going to hang with a lot of very high-end cars. I think that's absolutely incredible. The cars this car is going to hang with are going to easily cost $250,000, $300,000. You're talking sub $100,000. You're going to be able to run with Lamborghinis and Ferraris in this car because it is just so incredible of how fast this car is and how well it handles. And I think this is basically a bargain basement supercar, what this thing really is. Like I said, I don't consider it a supercar, but it's almost there. If it wasn't really for like the chassis it's based on, it's almost there, and it's got the aspects of a supercar. And I think that the value is really there for someone that wants something that really, really goes fast but doesn't want to spend a ton of money. This is a great option. And then finally, the maintenance on this car, which kind of ties into the value. There's nothing really crazy maintenance-wise on this car. This doesn't have to go to a special shop to have work done to it. It doesn't require any sort of crazy maintenance procedures for such a high horsepower car. It doesn't require engine out services. There are no timing belts in this thing. Everything is pretty common. The fluids are a little bit more expensive than you're going to find on most cars. The engine oil is a little bit more expensive. The DCT fluid is specific to this transmission. It's a little bit more expensive, but it's a front engine rear drive layout. Front engine, transmission's about in the middle, differentials in the back. It's a pretty simple layout. It's pretty easy to work on this car. Spark plugs are pretty easily accessible. If you do your own maintenance on cars, it's pretty easy to work on this thing. There's no crazy maintenance procedures. You don't have to drop this off to a shop for some crazy expensive maintenance or crazy expensive fluid changes. If you're mechanically inclined, you can work on this car like any other Mustang. The procedures are a little bit different for certain things like the DCT, but it's not bad. It's still fairly simple. It's pretty common for what you would expect from a transmission or something like that, but you can easily work on this car yourself. It doesn't have to go to some exotic car specialist to have maintenance done on this kind of car. You can work on it yourself. So I think this is a fantastic car with incredible performance that's relatively inexpensive that can be easily worked on yourself. That kind of sums up what is great about the GT500. Now, so what's going to go on in the garage? A lot of people asking me what's going on. The winter's coming up. The main reason I'm kind of selling this car, I just really don't have the time to drive it. I had it for 3 years, kind of a little bit of a short ownership. About the same time I had my Cobra R4. Unfortunately, I've gotten really busy with life. I just don't have the time to drive this car anymore, and it's just kind of been sitting. And I'm kind of been unhappy that the car's been sitting so much. I only put a few hundred miles in this car this year, not because I don't want to drive it, but because I'm just so busy and always doing things. I'm always taking my truck to do something. So the car just kind of sitting aside. Rather than have a $100,000 car just kind of sit, I'm just going to let this thing kind of go for now. Winter's coming up. The garage is going to be a little empty for a while. I don't really know what I'm going to do yet. I kind of thought about a few things. Ford has not selected me for a GTD, which is fine. I think the price of that car has kind of really ballooned to kind of crazy levels. And so the garage will be a little empty for a while, and I'm going to decide kind of in the future what I maybe want to replace this car with. I have no regrets owning this car. The car's been fantastic. I love this car. I just really don't have the time to really properly use the car the way I kind of wish I had when I originally got the car. So the garage is going to remain a little open for a little while, and we'll kind of see next year if I want to do something. I might just kind of hang out for a little while. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.